Good evening. Our show covers sensitive material, so viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to the H2G Podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode of the H2G Podcast. It is our Halloween special, as Halloween is coming up in just a couple of days on Sunday. We were missing Tony and Christy this week, and I thought, it's a Halloween special. We got to bring some familiar faces back to the H2G Podcast. So we have comedian Tony Watson. I remember that's your actual birth name, based on a previous episode.
It's on my birth certificate, yes. It's I'm here to replace the other Tony for the day.
Then replacing Christy is our singer-songwriter, one of the hosts of the Wire Sports Podcast, Sahi in the house. That's all on his birth certificate, too.
Yeah.
But what's going on, everybody? What we're going to do, guys, I don't know if we were doing this when you were here before. We jump around real quick. We're getting into a true crime today, so I'm super excited. But we got to jump around real quick and see what the best part of everyone's week was. Richie, why don't we start with you? You look like you're in a little bit of a different space this week.
Yeah, I'm at my girlfriend's place. We wanted to try it out a little bit. Like, I'm not going to do it necessarily every week, but it's kind of challenging for us because we film on the West Coast time versus most of the other guys. So that way I don't have to lose a whole day with her. We're going to try it out, see how it goes. Best part of my week. Man, I didn't really put a lot of thought into this one. Honestly, just spending the weekend with my girlfriend and Sophia. We had a good time. We went to this little 7-year-old party, which they kept asking me, a lot of them are from Russia and things like that. So they were asking me, is this how 7-year-old parties are supposed to be in the States? I was like, I don't know. I haven't been to one in 29 years, I'm not sure. But, there's pizza, there's food, there's gifts. That sounds about right to me. I don't know. So nothing fancy this week. It was a good time, nice and relaxed. Next week, we're going to be having fun. I will not be at the show for next week, unfortunately. I will be at the Madonna Inn. So looking forward to that.
Fancy. Well, you look good, man. You look good.
Thank you.
That's important. Marvin, first question before we get into the best part of your week. Is it really you over there?
yeah, man. It's me.
I'm glad to see you, man.
It is. Well, let me clear things up. My IG was hacked this week, so this week has been a rough one, and there's no business. I'd be fronting if I said there's a best part of my week. Now I've spent the week trying to defend my name. I feel like my character was in question due to a hack. The hacker currently is trying to scam money out of people. So what I've had to do was reach out to everyone that I know to say that it's not me. And majority of everyone, pretty much everyone that I know, they know it's not me. But just a word of advice out there to all you, protect your accounts. You never know if you click on a bad link, what can happen. So that's what happened to me. Unfortunately, I had to start over, but it is what it is. I'll be all right. But there is no best part of the week. Justin, thank you for bringing it up, helping me stay honest.
Well, I thought maybe we could get a chuckle out of you on it and start
that scammer messaged me, Marvin.
I'm sure he did. I
even told him. I said, get off my friend's account. And he said, I am your friend, he or she. So then I was cursing him out. And then he said, God save you. Or he or she. So whoever that is a religious person who likes to steal people's accounts to try to scam people.
Of course, that's the underscore Marvin Scott _ account.
Yes, you can follow me now at the real Marvin Scott. That is the new IG page. Hopefully, Facebook and IG get their shit together and they shut down the account.
Yeah.
Well, I've definitely reported the ever living crap out of it as well on my end.
He's actually Marvin overscore Scott.
Oh, overscore, not on.
Yeah. Yep.
Tony Watson, man, it's been a minute since we've had you on the show. What's been the best part of all this time since then, or the best part of your week?
Oh, I've been dying from COVID for 20 days now. So,
oh god,
yeah, I haven't really had any good moments lately. I did stand up for the first time in a couple weeks, 2 days ago. in front of like a packed brewery, and just ate it up there for about 21 minutes, and then drove 2.5 hours back home. That was pretty much the most exciting thing I did all week.
Well, it'll turn around. I'm sorry to hear that you have COVID. Hopefully you're coming out of the backside of that now, right?
It gave me like a double ear infection, so like I have to get rid of that too. So like I'm just, suffering over here. You guys got a ghost on your show right now. It's me.
Sahi, tell me your week has been better, my friend.
Yeah, man. My week's been great, man. You know what I'm saying? Nothing but positivity vibes, you know what I'm saying? Good energy. My thotty baby mama got locked up for PPP scams. So it's been great.
Yeah. All right. Well, best part of my week, my girlfriend's in town. We checked out Halloween Kills. Marvin, you're right. Not a fan. We'll have to see if they close the series off better than they did this middle movie. I don't know. If this was supposed to be the sequel to the original. That's the only part I really actually liked about it.
Justin,
it stood out.
Can I say something controversial about that? I don't think they should have even started the series. I think they've all been bad.
That's not that controversial to me. Marvin looks like he's a little upset about
That's a disgusting comment, and you're lucky we're already recording, or I would kick you off the show.
Well, let's for the second time, let's dive into it. Hopefully today's show will re-jive everyone's spirits. We're going to talk about something that I am oddly passionate about, which is true crime. I wanted for the first one to cover, I wanted to pick one that we all were at least around for and probably knew about. Today, we're going to be covering Casey Anthony case. And there's so much to this, and we'll get into it. But first, I want to run through where I got most of my information, or all of my information. I use the wikipedia.org. We use CNN.com for a couple of things. There's biography.com/news/Casey Anthony murder trial. Another Wikipedia. There's just all the Wikipedias on her. There's this excellent documentary. It's a 3-part series on Amazon Prime called The Casey Anthony American Murder Mystery. And then smartplayercaptionsync.com as well. If anything else pops up or we have to like spot Google anything, we will definitely drop that. So before we dive into today's true crime, I do want to start by saying that there is a long list of smaller details and pieces of like circumstantial evidence that are involved in the case. So for the sake of the broadcast, we've tried to take out as much of that as we can without taking any of the factual, like hard timeline stuff. So like I said, and Richie, I know if I missed anything or did something unbiased, please call it out. I'm
laughing. I'm laughing because Sahi is ready to go with this crime scene.
He's got the crime.
We got a man live at the scene, Casey.
Right, I'm here in the backyard.
Circa 2011. Sahi
He's back
on the scene.
2011.
I put the tape up myself.
So, like I said, for the Halloween special, we're going to dive into a deep dive into Casey Anthony. So let's start with a little bit of background. George and Cindy Anthony gave birth to Casey Anthony back in 1986 in Warren, Ohio. I meant to Google that. I don't even know where that's at. I think it's
like by Clevelandish.
Oh, Cleveland.
I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When Casey was 3, the Anthonys moved to Orlando, Florida, where they will have resided up and through the events that we're going to cover today. August 9th, 2005, Casey Anthony gave birth to Kaylee Marie Anthony at the age of 19, and she was still living with George and Cindy. And then on July 15th, 2008, Cindy Anthony made a series of, we find out later there was 3 total phone calls to the police. These phone calls open up our story today that really honestly took the entire nation by storm. I've even heard it said that this case is comparable to like O.J. Simpson trial, how involved the entire country was with everything that was going on. So the gist of the original 2 phone calls, guys, was that Cindy was reporting her car stolen, saying that her daughter had taken the car, and also that she had been staying somewhere else and that they hadn't seen or heard from their granddaughter in about a month. Now, these phone calls took place on July 15th, like I said. So no one had seen or heard from Kaylee since June. The third call, significantly more disturbing. Cindy described that when they brought the car home from an impound lot, I think they had it towed from the impound lot. The trunk was stained and that it smelled like there was a dead body in the car, was the report. So police brought in what's called an on-call missing persons detective. His name was Yuri Melich. I apologize if I messed that up. And he was one of the detectives that took point on the case. And the search for Kaylee Marie basically begins there. Detective Melich sat down with Casey Anthony and he asks several questions. I'm not going to go through all the questions, but basically this is the story that she tells him. On June 15th, Casey was off to work at her job as an event planner at Universal Studios. She dropped off Kaylee at her nanny's, a woman named Zenaida. Zanny is her nickname. Fernandez Gonzalez.
Zanny the nanny is her nickname.
Zanny the nanny.
Zanny the nanny.
She said that she had been Kaylee's nanny for 2 years, and at this time, Kaylee would have been 2. So basically her whole life. Casey claims that she came back after work, and Zanny and Kaylee were gone. She claims that she made several attempts that and the following days to locate Zanny and Kaylee, but had not been able to find her. Obviously, Detective Melich got into the line of questioning, basically saying, why haven't you reported Kaylee missing? It's been, 31 days. Casey responds in a combination of, she basically was saying that she didn't want to upset or disappoint her mother, and she didn't want to anger Zanny, who had Kaylee, is what she told the detective. I know this is a lot piling in. Anybody got anything, the questions or up to this point?
I mean, she was an event planner. She definitely could have planned a murder. So, I mean, that should have been a red flag right away.
Okay. Well, Tony, you're going to hear a little more about her alleged event planning skills. So don't worry about that.
Oh, okay. Because I don't actually know a lot of the story. I just
that's what I'm saying. Like, I like the quirk. I like the quirk there, but you'll find out about Universal Studios in a little bit. Justin, the only thing I'm going to comment to all of the audience that's listening right now is how would one know what a dead body smells like? And we'll get into that later, I'm sure. Justin's got more for us, but that's all I got to say.
Yeah, I will say to that, just because in case I omitted it somewhere, the only thing that I can think of is Cindy's profession would be she's an RN, so she does work in the medical field. Could possibly have run into it before. And if it comes up, I don't think it comes up, but I know George was a retired police officer working security.
Right. And to clarify to the audience already, George says it did not smell anything like that. And that, spoiler alert, the mother was saying it was histrionic and that it smelled really badly, but they used it literally in the case.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just how Kaylee smelled as is. Maybe she just smelled bad even when she was alive.
I mean, when they take some nasty poops.
Yeah, Hey.
Could be. Well, let's get some more details in. I think that'll open discussion up. Obviously, right away, the police want Casey to take them to the apartment building that Zanny, the nanny, lived in. So they go that night. That night is a long night for the investigation. They arrive and they find that the apartment is completely vacant. So the search continues on through the night. The first thing in the morning, the detectives go and speak with management of the apartment complex. They learn that not only had there never been a record of any person named Zenaida Gonzalez living there, but the unit in question was actually vacant since March. As a part of Casey's original statement, she told police that the only 2 people who knew that Kaylee was actually missing with Zanny were a few of her coworkers. I actually saw it different on different sources. I saw 2 on several sources, so we'll stay that, but it may have been a couple coworkers at Universal. So police decide to essentially they need to go and talk to these people at Universal. They go and they're looking for these employees to lock down the alibi. And they discovered that not only had Casey not worked at Universal Studios for close to 2 years, but the names that she gave for work friends also had either never worked there or hadn't worked there in a long time. So things are starting to look fishy because, everything that she said to the police so far in regards to her daughter, who is just now being reported missing, what seems like 31 days after the fact, has come up false. Police bring Casey into Universal and they try to get her, it's got sort of like a trap, try to get her to take them to the supervisor. She ends up walking them. I watched this part of the documentary. I couldn't believe it. She didn't want to give up the lie right away. So they got to the security. The security is like, I'm sorry, I don't see you in here anywhere. And you got to imagine how many people work at Universal. I mean, it's possible the security guard's like, well, it's possible she works here, but I don't know. And he can't find her anywhere. They managed to sweet talk, the police probably helped past that. And I guess she just led them down hall after hall before finally turning around and saying, okay, I don't work at Universal Studios.
Anyone in the universe can work there except for her.
So, like I said, it's starting to look pretty fishy. I do have from there, right there at Universal, they get into what do we call that, like a conference room, and they want to ask Casey some questions at this point, obviously. But I also, before we get into playing, I brought a little clip of that. Before we get into that, is there anything that you guys like to say now that we're starting to see some of this unfold?
I think Universal should make a movie out of this for sure. That'd be a wild.
The security guard should. How did they get past him? Right? That's what I want to know. The only thing I have to say is you have to remember how Casey Anthony is 20 or 21 years old at this point in her life, to clarify. So as to why somebody would start making lies to the police, there's at least a thought.
Right. Absolutely. Marvin, we're starting to see that none of her story adds up, man. What's it look like to you so far?
Man, it seems like the work of a diabolical narcissist, for real. When you look at the timeline of everything, it just doesn't add up. I mean, I'll talk about this further into the show, but when you look at the first, I'm just going to say this. When you look at the first 31 days of when Casey Anthony reported her daughter being missing, what mama do you know? Especially if it's y'all. If y'all go missing, you think your moms are going to flip out and call within a day or so, not 30 seconds. I know if Tony was on this panel right now, if his daughter was missing for 30 seconds, let alone, he would be in a panic. So it just doesn't add up to why she reported her daughter being missing 31 days later. So as we get in further into it, I'll explain why I think she's guilty.
Oh, interesting. Marvin, giving us a little spoiler alert there. Well, I'm actually going to counter that.
Well, I was not a spoiler. I've been saying for weeks I was going to chop her up.
Well, I got a counterpoint to that. What grandmother who sees her grandchild weekly would wait 31 days as well at this point to do something? Remember, when her daughter's at this point 20 or 21, it's not a 30-plus-year-old, 21-year-old kid, and you haven't been seeing your granddaughter, and you're just like, all right, you're busy? No, you go over there and you do something, which is going to be my counterpoint later, and we'll get into that.
All right. So I actually grabbed a small audio clip. This is from YouTube. I don't have the works cited. I'll make sure I put it in the credits. This is actually audio from Universal Studios that day, where the detectives are like, okay, we need to ask you some questions. Things aren't adding up.
We're just going to hear the Jurassic Park theme in the background the whole time.
Casey, we talked earlier this morning, and we're working a case looking for your daughter, Kaylee. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, we came here to Universal Studios. We're sitting in a little conference room. Obviously the door isn't locked. We just closed it so we can have a little bit of privacy and talk to you. And a couple more questions came up we need to ask you about. Remember how I opened this whole thing in the morning?
Yeah.
By saying that, we need to get the complete truth and the snowball effect and how it goes? Okay. We're about halfway down that hill, 3/4 down that hill, and it's a pretty big snowball, which means that there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And I can tell you just for a certainty that everything you've told me so far has been a lie. I can tell you with a certainty, and let me explain why. Since I left you this morning, I've gone to every address that you've told me. I've looked up every name. I've talked to every person that you wanted me to talk to or tried to. I've reached out. I've talked to your ex-boyfriend. I've talked to Amy. I've talked to Tony. I came over here. I've already talked to all the employees. I found out all these names that you're giving me are people that either never worked here or have been fired here for a long time ago. Okay. So where we are right now is in a position that doesn't look very good for you. And this is going to be your escape hatch, so to speak. Okay, this is going to be the point where you stop all the lies and you stop all the fibs and you tell us exactly what's going on. I'm just being straight with you. Because obviously I know and you know that everything you told me is a lie, correct?
Not everything that I told you.
Okay. Pretty much everything that you've told me, including where Kaylee is right now.
That I don't know where she is.
Sure you do. And here's
absolutely do not know where she is.
Let me explain something.
All right. It goes on. That is actually an hour interview. All you have to do is look it up. Casey's Universal interview. If you look it up, you can find all of this good stuff on YouTube. She, for about an hour, denies that she has any knowledge of where Kaylee is, but she doesn't really ever give a concrete answer until later on when she attorneys up as to why the lying was going on. We do get a little picture of that later on. Okay, so after that, the police bring child neglect charges onto Casey, just so basically that they can hold her during this investigation/search. I do have another quick audio clip that I want to play for you guys. This is actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, if any of you guys know, or if you're listening at home, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this is her first phone call. Once she was arrested, that she made it to her mom, Cindy. I just kind of want you guys to hear the state of mind and the way things are being handled, because that to me is what's weird. I'm not saying one side or the other. I'm trying to call it right down the middle, but just the state of mind and the lack of attention on what seems to be the matter at hand is what strikes me as weird about this case. So we'll play that call real quick here.
Casey?
Mom.
Hey, sweetie.
Oh, I just saw your nice little cameo on TV.
Which one?
What do you mean, which one?
Which one? I did 4 different ones, and I don't know. I haven't seen them all. I've only seen 1 or 2 so far.
You don't know what my involvement is and stuff?
Casey?
Mom.
What?
No.
I don't know what your involvement is, sweetheart. You're not telling me where she's at.
Because I don't know where she's at. Are you kidding me?
Casey, don't waste your call to scream and holler at me.
Waste my call sitting in, the jail?
Whose fault is
bunks are?
Whose fault is you sitting in the jail? You're blaming me that you're sitting in the jail?
Not
Blame
my
yourself
fault.
for telling lies. You mean it's not your fault? What do you mean it's not your fault, sweetheart? If you'd have told them the truth and not lied about everything, they wouldn't.
Do me a favor, just tell me what Tony's number is. I don't want to talk to you right now. Forget it.
I don't have his number.
We'll get it from Lee because I know Lee's at the house. I saw Mallory's car was out front. It was just on the news. They were just live outside the house.
I know they were. Well?
Can you get Tony's number for me so I can call him? Hey, can you give me Tony's number?
I can do that. I don't know what real good it's going to do at this point.
Well, I'd like to talk to him anyway.
Okay.
Because I called to talk to my mother, and it's waste. Oh, by the way, I don't want any of you coming up here when I have my first hearing for bond and everything else. Like, don't even waste your time coming up here.
You know, you're making it real tough for anybody to want to try to, even if it's you with giving you somebody's phone number. You're not even letting me finish.
Well,
I really...
Oh boy. Okay. So yeah. And I am trying to call this down the middle, but I clearly, at this point, she's not valuing a support system or wanting a support system. Police did tap the phone call. So first stop after listening to this, they want to go and talk to Tony Lazaro, her boyfriend at the time, where she allegedly was, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this too, but during some of that 31 days, I think 2 to 3 weeks of that time, she had moved out of her parents' house and in with Tony. They wanted to talk to Tony, and he had a roommate. to learn a little bit about Casey. I summarize it here, so I kind of they learned a lot, but essentially Casey and Tony have been together since April. And anytime Casey had came around, basically from the beginning, which was around like 3 to 4 times a week, she always had Kaylee with her. Now, I want to make sure that we mention anyone who has been questioned that saw them together labeled Casey as a good mom, very tight with Kaylee and brought her around, and it seemed copacetic as far as that goes.
No one asked Kaylee what she thought about her.
That's true. Also, side note, this is random, and I don't mean to make light of this at all, but Tony, if you would have just given the number up, your phone number.
Imagine using your one phone call in jail on someone who's like, no, let me talk. Like, what a waste of a call that was.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. Did anybody else have anything on the call clip that we heard?
It was just weird.
Okay. Yeah. Let me get
short and sweet.
Absolutely.
Right.
So
I'm just trying to take all this in, like.
Absolutely.
Because I don't really know anything about it.
Once we get to the trial, it's a lot easier to have a discussion. Once we get through all this here, all of a sudden, mid-June is when Tony and the roommate say that Casey just started coming over on her own, which doesn't look great for the timeline. Casey always told Tony and the roommate that Kaylee was at her mom's or at Zanny the nanny's. The next several months from this point in the investigation and to where I'm getting was a whirlwind of information. So I'm going to try to summarize it as best I can. The car's trunk was investigated after, the claims from the third call. There was a stain. They pulled a piece of that carpet. They found some hair. They sent that off to forensics. Casey's parents had to go under some further investigation. During this time, people across the country took interest in the case. Interesting thing about Florida, the way their disclosure laws work, the media is absolutely entitled to all of the investigation information. So as police are gathering things, I don't know if there's a secret line that can be drawn, but as far as I'm understanding the laws, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, they have to turn that info over to the media. So that's the thing about Casey Anthony. Most of this stuff was completely televised and all over the radio. The search team was huge. And the whole nation was involved, and actually myself, I was already caught in the whirlwind. So I do have one other clip. This is a video clip for those of you watching at home on Facebook and YouTube. For those of you listening, you can find, we're still going to play the audio for you, but you can find this clip on our episode. Just go to around this timestamp. This is during these next several months, Casey and George went to go visit, George and Cindy went to go visit Casey in jail. She did apparently have a short visit before this with Lee. I could not find any of the video from that call, but I do have some video from her little meeting with George and Cindy. I think that this is some pretty crucial, just more character analysis, I think, is kind of what I think is important here, because you'll find when we get to the end of this, there aren't any real definitive facts as to solving this mystery. It has a lot to do with trying to discern through what we have. So I'm going to show this clip real quick and we'll be right back. Okay, so there's a lot to take in there, and I know there wasn't a whole lot of information coming out of that. I just kind of wanted you to see the demeanor. Keep in mind, at this point, as you just heard from Cindy, Anthony, the entire country is searching for, well, not the entire country is searching for, but there's a lot of people in Florida searching for Kaylee, and the entire country has televised it. CNN, Fox, ABC. I mean, it was big news. And so just some character points that I wanted to bring up that was probably considered unbiased. Richie, you can call me out or considered biased. Okay, so a couple quick points before we get to the break, and then we'll get into the trial. And I think that's where we can kind of open this up a little bit. They did end up finding Zenaida Gonzalez. She was a real person, but she lived over 20 miles away. She did have alibis to line up with not being involved. on the dates and times that were originally stated, and had no connection to the Anthonys at all from what I could find. Casey, before we go to the break, another thing that happened during these months, Casey got the name of an attorney named Jose Baez from another inmate and hired him, and he would serve as her defense counsel.
Seems weird to get a attorney whose last name is Baez. Is it not?
Yeah, I mean, I think I pronounced it right. It's B-A-E-Z, but Baez. Yeah. So we'll get into the biggest trial, or one of the biggest trials in the century, after the commercial break. But we do have a few minutes, guys. Up until this point, and we'll keep in mind when we come back, I'm basically going to jump right into the details of the trial and open it up for discussion. Is there anything that you're feeling or thinking about the case at this point? Nothing. All right, so we're going to go to a quick break. You're watching and listening to the H2G podcast. Make sure that you check out our links below. If you're on Spotify, we've been throwing up these. They added these polls in the Q&A. We're adding that every week. So if you'd like to be involved in the show, we want to know what you think. So please do so. Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you're hitting that like button, that subscribe button, that little notifications bell. And in the comments, we have our link to our new Patreon. We appreciate your support, and if you do so, you get behind the scenes for both this and the Wire podcast. For H2G, we'll be right back.
I'm going in, it's 1st and 10. I'm a legend boy, a champion. They can't match the flows, the X's and O's. I'm breaking the code, devastation about to unfold. They calling me Derek by the way I roll. Bet you never ever seen a pro this cold. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I mix with I am Mike and the great Ali. I'm a running back, believe me baby. I fathered the game, call me Daddy Brady. I'm like that, try be like this. Sammy Sosa, that boy don't miss. It's the return of the greatest. Any way you name it, I'm everybody's favorite. I'm bringing the pain and bringing the fire. Hey, stay tuned, it's going down to the wire.
Welcome back to the H2G podcast. We are doing our Halloween special here, covering the Casey Anthony trial. Thank you for your patience with us on our first ever true crime. If there's any other serial killers or unsolved mysteries or crimes that you like to cover in the future, please let us know in the comments below, and we will definitely work on telling this in a little more succinct fashion. Okay, so let's dive in. A couple quick things, and we'll start the trial. August 21st, Casey was released and sent on house arrest. There was like a huge public uproar about this, protesting outside the house, things like that. She was then on October 14th, after the forensic information came back off the test they did at the trunk of the car, they were able to confirm that it was like decomp of a body. And so Casey was then arrested and then finally charged with first-degree murder. And then on December 11th of 2008, so I know we just jumped from October to December, a utility worker called the police and reported skeletal remains that he found in the woods. I believe it was just a couple miles from the Anthony home. And later, this was confirmed by forensics to be Kaylee Marie Anthony. Okay, so like I said, in the first half, we are zooming past a bunch of minor details. If any of them come up super crucial and we need to dive into them, we absolutely can pull them out. I know a lot of them, but I tried to pull as many out as I could to be succinct. Let us jump ahead to May of 2011. Just Those Best and the Beach Bash were in full swing, but that's not what we're here to talk about. The trial begins. Prosecution. I did write this in here, Richie, and I don't want to say it incorrectly. Prosecution was originally seeking the death penalty, is what I read on one of my sources.
That is correct.
Correct. Okay.
But they wanted her to die the same way that Kaylee died.
I don't know if that's correct.
I read that somewhere. My bad.
It's very possible. So they opened up with... Okay, so the prosecution, this is in their opening statements. They opened up, they used some photo evidence of Casey. They sort of pictured her as a party animal. They were able to timestamp a lot of this evidence during the search for Kaylee, like before a body was ever discovered, which, remind you, this all started in July of 2008 on a police phone call. Supposedly missing Kaylee since June of 2008, and the body was discovered December 11th. They showed pictures of her dancing with women at a party or a club. They showed a picture of her new tattoo that she got during the time that read Bella Vita, translated, I believe, as a beautiful life. And to summarize the sentiment of the prosecution's opening statement, they basically drew a picture of a young mother that wanted to be free of the responsibilities of parenthood so that she could pursue her Bella Vita or beautiful life. I do have a quick quote. Oh, no, that was a quote. They showed the jury evidence that Casey spent much of Kaylee's absence going to clubs and shopping and things like that. Nobody really knew what direction the defense was going to take going into the trial. I don't think. I know a lot of people had a lot of questions because, like we said, everything was publicized. So you can imagine the mass amount of theories that were being created amongst people all over the country. But when Jose Baez took the floor for his opening statement, he pretty much dropped a bombshell that I don't think was really to be expected at all. To summarize the defense opening statement, Jose asserted that Kaylee Marie was in fact never missing. Baez stated that on June 15, 2008, Cindy went to work as per usual, and Kaylee was left in the care of George and Casey. Kaylee, at some point that day, got in the family pool by herself and drowned. He then went on to say that George, I think he said it, like, assaulted Casey or told Casey that it was all her fault and that if she didn't cover it up, that she would go to prison for neglect and manslaughter. Jose Baez then addressed the lying that Casey did during the investigation. He did so by claiming that allegating that Casey had been conditioned to lie fluently as a result of years of covering up a dirty family secret. Baez tells the jury that Casey was molested continuously by her father as a child, and that George had taught her to lie so well to cover for him. And the accusations were later dismissed from the trial. We'll get into that a little more as to why. George did reply that day. He denied all the claims of the molestation, and that that he was there and that Kaylee drowned and that he told her to cover it up. And the documentary I watched, I don't know. This is coming from George and Cindy. They said that their lawyer had told them to be prepared to be attacked. That they actually knew that Baez was going to target George specifically, and that they should act as cold as they could.
I wonder if the last name had anything to do with that.
Baez. Let's see here. Don't want to miss anything. Baez also on opening day, this is where he gets into it, brings something to light that also I didn't even know until the trial had started. And that was George had attempted suicide and gone through recovery during those months that I had described. While I think this was after December 11th, 2009, if I remember correctly, is when the attempted suicide was. Feel free to correct me in the comments. I do not want to misrepresent this trial. But yes, George had to, while on stand, face the accusations and he did admit to his attempted suicide. The trial pressed on with some breaks in between, so it wasn't like every single day, but there was several days of this trial. And not every day was as exciting as the first one, but I'm going to get through most of it as quick as I can here. So on May 27th, we saw day 2 of the trial. There was this guy, Simon Birch, that took the stand. He's the guy that owns the towing company that had impounded the Anthony's car. He testified that in his years of business, he had encountered multiple vehicles with dead bodies. Go figure. Someone that owns a tow. I never thought about that until I was doing the research for this. Someone that owns a tow company in a junkyard probably sees lots of bodies.
Yeah, sometimes you can't get them out of the car. Sometimes they're still in the car as they're being towed away. Yeah,
good God. Birch did testify that the smell coming from the Anthony's car was consistent with those past discoveries. Lee Anthony, Casey's brother's fiance, took the stand on the second day. She spent her time on the stand describing Casey and Kaylee's bond as a very special bond and that they were very close. Looking into June 6th, the forensics expert that owned the lab that got the initial stains from the car took the stand. And this is where I've heard and read on Reddit, and there's so many theories about this portion. His name was Arpad Vass. Pardon me if I got that wrong. He revealed to the court that there were levels of chloroform that are typically detected in decomp, and that these particular levels of chloroform were abnormally high. This test does get contested the very next day on June 8th in court by an FBI scientist that was brought in by, I believe, the defense. He's a scientist from the FBI who says that high levels of chloroform are also consistent with a variety of household cleaners that could have been used to clean the trunk. So there's no basically stating there's no way to prove that chloroform was used in the kill or anything like that. And
except for when they opened the trunk, they all passed out.
That would prove that there's way too much chloroform, but that didn't happen. I do want to mention, because I'm not sure I mentioned it in the notes here. Keep in mind, there's no COD on this death. And the reason being is they found the remains in December. So it was completely skeletal remains. I watched the lead, it's forensic anthropologist. Is that right? The bone expert, the person that had to go through the remains and try to determine the cause of death. And she basically stated that because once a body has gone completely skeletal, it's almost impossible to find. June 8th, among other things, the main takeaway from this day was the software designer that testified. He testified that someone had made multiple suspicious web searches during George and Cindy's normal work hours in March of 2008. The searches were, as originally reported, 84 searches.
I gotta cut you off. That's not accurate. He did not say that. He said they asked him to read a report using his software that stated those things.
I gotcha. Okay.
Very big distinction. He did not say that. They forced him to read something that he had nothing to do with, as if it was authorized by him.
Because it was from his software. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I also had a scientific fact in here, by the way. Do you know why when they become skeletal, they're harder to find? It's because dogs run away with them. I read that somewhere.
That's a scientific fact. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Discovery Channel.
So the software reports that there are, I believe, 86 searches for chloroform, searches for head injuries, ruptured spleen, chest trauma, and internal bleeding. Now, this is all pretty interesting stuff. On June 23rd, Cindy Anthony, Casey's mother, some would say she goes back on some of the things that she said during the investigation to the police.
He committed perjury.
Yeah, she first testified.
Not some would say she committed perjury. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So she testified that she stayed home from work that day in March, that the software came up with these results, and that she'd been researching these things on her computer because she's an RN. Cindy also says that the stain in the trunk was there when they bought the car 8 years earlier.
How convenient.
If you remember. Say what?
How convenient.
Convenient, yes.
Yeah. And if you remember that third call, the call that really set things into motion, she said that it sounds like, and you can listen to the call on YouTube. Like I said, I pulled a lot of things out, but she says it smells like there's a damn dead body in the car, and that there's a stain and all this. She did also that day say that it was like a box of pizza that they pulled out of the car that had been rotting. And that's kind of where the prosecution took the stance of like, you're an RN, can't you distinct between rotten pizza and rotten body and all that.
They look the same.
At this point, Cindy, like Richie was mentioning, is committing perjury and changing her story in an attempt to protect her daughter. On July 3rd, 2011, both sides delivered their closing arguments. The prosecution focused on the narrative that motherhood was merely burdening Casey, and that she was motivated to go to any length necessary to gain her freedom from such a burden. I do have a direct quote from Jeff Ashton, who was the lead prosecutor. Something needed to be sacrificed. That something was either the life that she wanted or the life that was thrust upon her. She chose to sacrifice her child. Baez was actually forbidden, as I mentioned earlier, by the judge from using any part of the molestation allegations during his closing statements. So Baez focused instead on the fact that there was a hefty lack of evidence, nothing to definitively place Kaylee's body in the trunk, or to as to where Casey or Kaylee died. Nothing to point Casey directly to the murder of Kaylee. Basically telling the jury you have nothing to put a body and Casey together in the same place, or no way of proving how Kaylee died or when Kaylee died. Okay, so last facts, and then we'll open this up here because I want to see what everyone thinks. July 5th, 2011, the jury, after deliberation for 11 hours, keep in mind this trial was like a year long. They deliberated for 11 hours. Casey was facing charges of first-degree murder, aggravated manslaughter of a child, and aggravated child abuse. There are 4 other charges that I'll get to in a second, but regarding the big 3, Casey was found not guilty on all 3 charges. She was found guilty on the other 4 charges. They were of providing false information to the police, and 2 of those charges were dropped in an appeal, I believe, later on. Sentencing took place on the 7th of July. This is a little interesting, I guess, is to say the least. I hope I summarized this right. She was sentenced to a 4-year sentence and a $4,000 fine, but she got a bunch of that time canceled because between her arrest, when they found when they got the remains back from the trunk, like when they got the sample back from the trunk and they noticed that it was in fact a decomp body, and she lied about that too. From then until the trial, she served in jail. So they forgave her for that time. And with some good behavior, gave her some forgiven time. So all in all, after the trial, Casey would face 10 more days in jail before she was released. Now, there are tons of details that come after the case as well. I've read that somebody came forth stating that Casey was paying Baez with sex, that the plan was all along to paint George as a rapist and as all of this. All these people that had a bunch to say after the trial. So I didn't really get into the details of that. But at the end of the day, the truth is Kaylee Marie Anthony's death to this day remains unsolved, and Casey Anthony is a free woman. So my reporting ends there. This is where I want to open it up. There's a lot to chew. There's probably a lot missing. Richie, I know you know a lot about the case too, so I want to start with you just to fill any blanks that I may have missed there, or to give your analysis of the case as a whole.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you the audience a big chunk of what Justin didn't elaborate on, because I think what's important is Justin mentioned some things, but he missed what I think is very critical. The first thing is they originally ruled Kaylee as a homicide, and that was because they had a pathologist who had done so. But she had said she had found a heart sticker covering her mouth, but did not take a photo of it, only wrote it as a document. So clarifying, she found what she thought was circumstantial evidence to what could have caused this death, but did not actually document this with a photo, etc., or any sort of proof. So then there was a Dr. Werner Spitz who wanted to be there as well. The defense called on him. He ended up getting a second autopsy later. His first claim was that, again, her name was Garavaglia. I don't know too much about Garavaglia other than the heart-specific stickers, to clarify to the audience. However, he called it shoddy because she did not open the skull to see what was happening and ruled it a homicide. And so apparently for forensic pathologists, when you do an autopsy, you have to do the entire skeleton. You can't skip something because you think you have an idea of something. So he did do the entire skeleton, and he ruled that it was at this point, it was too late to identify anything. So he could not rule it a homicide. So that's the first thing. This was not actually ruled legally a homicide. And that's part of the circumstance of her party life, and they were trying to throw that out there. So she was technically...
I was say what they did find was just like duct tape in the canvas bag and trash bag, right? The sticker. I forgot about that. Precisely.
So Kaylee was never ruled as a homicide first and foremost. Now they wanted it to be. The state wanted it to be. And again, let me clarify here. I'm not saying right or wrong. What I'm just pointing out is facts. And the facts are, and why she ended up not being ruled guilty, is they had nothing to even identify if the poor child was even murdered technically, right? They still can't even prove that to this day. And unfortunately are not going to be able to. But I find it very puzzling that this pathologist would not have the other pathologist there present. That doesn't, that was a big part of why the jury didn't rule in favor of her being guilty, quite frankly, right there. Is it makes no sense if you have two forensics, why the other one wouldn't be allowed on site at the same time with the FBI. So that was one problem. The second problem I'm going to mention is to what Justin said. Now, it's very important that I say this. They wanted to have her under the death penalty if she was charged. Okay, this is very importantly because there's a gentleman named Bradley who created this software on search results. And what they did is they ran a search. There were two profiles on the computer. The search actually only had it one time, not the 83 or 84 that was claimed. And it was in regards to a 19th century chloroform Google search. So Bradley, with his own money, said he wanted to come over to Florida because he lives in Canada to actually present that information. But he had already presented originally what they forced him to read, not of his own volition. They forced him to read it. And he never got the chance to say that. And here's where they screwed up. And let me say they screwed up. Even if she was convicted, that right there would have allowed this to be a mistrial. So Casey Anthony would have gotten away with it if he feared she was guilty, regardless. So my problem with this from the get-go was the prosecutors had no plan. All they tried to do was use Casey was a party girl and she was loose morals and all these things. They had no evidence, they had no data, and they were trying to lie as many times as they could to avoid actually presenting facts. And that's a big reason why she was not guilty. The jury also, one of the things they said was the biggest reason they voted not guilty was obviously the evidence, but two, George, the father, George Anthony, because George could recollect things crystal clear when he wanted to, and then couldn't remember other details. So he was too circumstantial. And again, this isn't to say they believed that Kaylee drowned as Casey Anthony and was claiming George and her were present for, and that they were covering it up. But what they were saying is George Anthony wasn't trustworthy. So because he wasn't trustworthy and he was the linchpin to her defense, it led them to believe without any proof that they're not going to vote her guilty because they have no proof that, one, it wasn't a homicide technically. Two, they have no proof of it, no actual data and no science to prove that. And then three, the argument of him helping her hide all of this kind of is possible. So that's why they said there's a possibility there. We don't believe he did anything sexually to her and abused her, but it could very well be that he helped assist in this because he was lying and not answering questions whenever he wanted to answer a question, he had every detail. So that's ultimately why the jury went with not guilty. So I'm not saying she's guilty or not guilty, but those were the evidence presented to why this led to that point. The body was not examined thoroughly, that they completely lied on the report of Google searches. It was 83 attempts when it was actually one, and they identified what it was for. And it's for a 19th century chloroform, which obviously has no bearing in the modern terms in 2008 when this occurred. And that George Anthony wasn't very trustworthy on the stand. And to clarify to the audience, Casey never even took the stand. So some people always view that as theoretically she's guilty. So.
All right. Thank you for that. I appreciate filling in the blanks there for me. I did completely forget about the crime scene because I wrote that the detail. It's like a laundry bag that they found, trash bag and duct tape. They found the match of I was trying to, a lot of it was circumstantial. They found the match to the laundry bag in the Anthony home, all kinds of things like that. Whoever would like to go next on your take on the trial, on the verdict, on any of the details, any questions you have for anybody who wants to go next.
Can I take a guess on when she died?
When Kaylee died? Yeah.
Garbage day. That's my thought on that one. All right. Anybody else want to go?
I mean,
yeah, we're gonna shift gears after that comment. We're gonna move on. Let's move on. That's interesting what you said, Richie, about the prosecution, because I felt like they did miss some points to really try to nail her, in terms of the evidence being circumstantial. I mean, you couldn't, I'm just putting the emotional bias to the side for a second. You can't, they couldn't prove that she killed Kaylee Anthony. They just couldn't prove it. Even with the overwhelming amount of evidence that there was no evidence that was directly linked to Casey doing any physical harm to Kaylee Anthony. So I felt like even when you look at the forensic team, they missed their chances too. They dropped the ball, especially when examining the skull. I think you had one examiner crack the skull open. And correct me if I'm wrong, Richie, is that true? One of the examiners cracked the skull open, which, I mean, in a result kind of, it kind of put the case in limbo. I mean, because how can you, fully examine something that, shouldn't have been, it shouldn't have been touched, specifically by that examiner alone. But when you look at it, man, I mean, the timeline with everything doesn't add up. Sure, the prosecution pointed out that she was partying and that she entered a beauty pageant and got a tattoo and all that. But that doesn't mean that she wasn't guilty. And then just because she didn't take the stand doesn't mean she wasn't guilty either. OJ didn't take the stand either. We all knew that dude was guilty. We all knew that. But it's just really, really fishy to me that you would wait 31 days after your daughter was missing to report it. And not only that, but when you listen to the videos and you watch the videos, y'all, her body language doesn't add up. Her mannerisms don't add up. Her behavior doesn't add up to someone who's lost a child. And even if there was a cover-up of a drowning, a mother wouldn't react like that. I couldn't buy it from the beginning that she's innocent. I really think that she's had something to do with this. And that's just from everything that piles up. I hope we find her. Like, I don't know. Like, that's just not the kind of reaction that you would get from a mom. And I just was really uncomfortable, going through all the documentaries and seeing, photos, videos of her partying while her daughter is missing. She got a tattoo. While her daughter was missing. So to me, it's just, like I said earlier at the top of the show, it's the work of a diabolical psychopath. And when you look at Casey Anthony, she's got serves her right for drinks being thrown in her face now. now I've shifted gears and now I've gone to the emotional side of it, because that's how I feel. I feel like she's gotten away with murder, and there's no different than I feel. I'm just going to say this. There's no offense to you, Anthony, or Justin on the show, but she is a white woman in America, many white women that have gotten away with murder. And when you look at Florida as a whole, so they always talking about Florida man, there's Florida woman too. And she's just as crazy as the next one. So when we really go back and we look at this case, why would a child have duct tape around their mouth? Why? Like, that's never been explained. Why was there duct tape around the child's mouth? And who would do that? And even if there was for it, and high levels of chloroform being found in the trunk and in the car, that just goes to show, even though they could prove it, why would there be high levels of chloroform in the car anyway? Why would Universal Studios lie for her? It's just not up. So I think that this day she's guilty as fuck. 30 days before your daughter being missing, and then her response to her asking her why was that she tried to take different alternatives. That was stupid. No mom would say that after losing their daughter. Nobody, or even if the daughter was kidnapped or the daughter was lost. If Tony was on the show right now, I said at the top of the show, his daughter was missing for more than 30 seconds. If any one of you's loves were missing for more than 30 seconds, especially a child, you would go into it and you would do everything you can to find out where your child is. So like I said, the prosecution dropped the ball, just like you saw in the previous trial of the century, Jay. They dropped the ball. I feel like those two are compatible. They date each other because they both got away with murder. And that's just how I feel about it. I've been saying for weeks we chop her up. I think that evidence speaks for itself, whether you believe she's guilty or not. I honestly believe that she strangled this child, and I can't prove it, whether she did it with help or not. Only Casey Anthony knows what happened to Kaylee Anthony. And if her parents know, and if her dad is living with the guilt and he tried to commit suicide because he knows something and he won't say something. But this is not the first time and the last time that we've seen a white woman in America get away with murder. It just exercises the white privilege in the court system. And that's exactly what we see. That's exactly what we saw. And she got away scot-free. And she's living her life exactly to the tattoo she got. So you don't hear her come out talk about her daughter. You don't ever hear her come out talk about how innocent she still is. You don't hear about any of that. All we have is this overwhelming amount of physical evidence that was mishandled by the prosecution.
Beautifully stated, my friend. All right, we've got some short time here. Tony, before we get to Sahi, what do you think? Do you think she's guilty, innocent? What are your thoughts? Honestly,
my question is, if they don't think she was murdered, do they think she committed suicide or something? Like,
it's completely undetermined. This
is tough life as a 6-year-old. Well, what do they think happened? It's not like this kid had beef with a lot of adults. You know what I mean? It had to be someone close to her. So I would have just arrested anybody that could have been involved. You know what I mean? But
out of everybody.
Yeah, just I don't know. But update on the story. I think she's pregnant currently, isn't she? Does anybody know that?
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere that she's having a kid or is considering having a kid.
She does not have a kid. She's not pregnant.
Okay.
Okay. Thank God. Woo.
She did get a drink thrown in her face recently. That happened. I saw the video. And she keeps getting drinks thrown in her face.
That's justice if you think about it.
She actually is, in fact, pregnant with twins, and she's getting a reality TV series.
Oh, excuse me. Whoa.
2 more opportunities.
According to IMDb.com.
Rewind. My fault, Anthony. I don't mean to cut you off, Richie, Justice. But that just goes back to what I'm talking about. She gets a show, after committing murder. OJ didn't get a show.
OJ should have got a show.
Okay, then let OJ commentate on ESPN during Monday Night Football games. How about that? Give the brother a job. He hasn't had a job. And, go ahead, Anthony. My bad, man.
He should commentate WNBA games. That would be hilarious.
I'm sorry, Justin. I'm sorry, y'all, but that's just bullshit, man. That's bullshit.
That was the most disgusting Google search I've ever done. Sahi, man, you've been quietly taking in all the information. You've heard kind of both sides. Richie's basically sticking up for the jury, which he's right. They didn't have anything to call it murder. What are your thoughts?
I mean, obviously the bitch killed that baby or did something to it. Like, come on now. Like, in the future said it, 31 days. Killed that baby, now I'm getting late. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. 31 days, you ain't said nothing. The only people that know something is the co-workers. Come on, man. And then it's kind of like, do y'all want me to go there or nah? Like, do y'all want me to stick to the fact?
Oh, go where you want to go, man.
Y'all want me to go where I want to go? All right.
Anyway. Don't come at the Chiefs on this show.
And no. Fuck, they lost today, so you know what I'm saying? We leave that to the wire. But you know what I'm saying? It's like this bitch got her own show now. Like, is she off of murder? Like, obviously after she lied, like, man, you can't, man, I don't want to believe none of this, man. All this is somebody's sick joke, man. This has got to be a sick joke by somebody. Like the Gabby and the Brian Laundrie story. Like, they just found him dead. Like, it's not going to have a conclusion to it. Her family is going. Both of their families probably going to have a documentary or something. Somebody in their family is going to host a talk show. I don't know, man. This shit just seems so fucking weird. Like, that bitch should have been locked up a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? This is like,
so
is this even real?
Sort of the wag the dog theory that this is posed as a distraction to something else, to get because the whole nation was involved. Interesting. I will remain biased, but I agree with everybody. No, I'm just kidding. I was gonna say unbiased.
Would anybody watch this show?
It's in the works now from what I saw on IMDb.
Would you watch it if it comes out though? Would you like?
Oh, I'm totally gonna have to see at least some of it. I mean,
yeah,
you're part of the problem.
I'm part of the problem.
Saying that.
But I need
part of the problem.
Let OJ come back and commentate football. Then.
Right? Yeah.
The OJ and Casey Anthony show.
I don't know. I think Sahi's got a point there that it is highly glorified. I actually feel more so about the Gabby Petito case, and I can kind of see the avenue here with the Casey Anthony case that it could be
you knew, like, not to cut you off, Justin, but you knew how that case was going to turn out. You know what I'm saying? Like, they let this kid go home, and now he's on the run after he'd been home for a week without the person he went on the trip with. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. I just got a call, but it's just like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, we all knew how that was going, and they weren't going to find that Brian Laundrie dude or whatever. And now they just found his remains. Oh, that's him. Yep, we know for sure. Come on, man. Stop tricking me.
Blowing whistles.
The big plot twist is that Brian Laundrie actually killed Kaylee. Now we'll never know.
Holy shit. You just took me all the way out the game on that one, man. I've been thinking about that all night.
We don't want to take anything away from Kaylee Marie. The case is cold. Unfortunately, it'll never be closed unless, as Richie and Marvin both said, unless Casey at some point decides to speak her truth as to what happened, because we never even really got there to the point of the prosecution failing to do their job. Outside of me trying to tell the story as unbiased as possible, I will say we never even really found out Casey's truth, just the reason behind her lies. We never really got the truth, and I don't think that we ever will unless she decides to say something. We want to know what you think in the comments below. If there's other true crimes you want to do, if there's a different way we should do it, just tried this one out this season because we got the new format. Thank you, Tony Watson, the comedian, and Sahi. We'll see. You can see Sahi along with the rest of us on The Wire every Wednesday. Tony, you want to plug super quick? We got less than a minute.
CuriousCastPodcast.com.
Wow, perfect. Easy peasy. Live, laugh, love like it's your last. We missed our last word this week. We'll be back next week with another heavy hitter topic. Make sure you check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and where all audio podcasts are found. You guys have a good week.